Nurse pays for patient's medicine. Hours later, 3 helicopters land at the hospital. Jennifer Thompson closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the last 16 hours on duty. Mercy General Hospital, on the outskirts of Chicago, was going through its toughest days with funding shortages and overworked staff. That's when she saw the boy, about 10 years old, bald from treatment, crying alone in the hallway. Ethan clutched a crumpled prescription between his small fingers, tears streaming down his thin face. "What happened, sweetheart?" Jennifer knelt to his eye level. "I lost the money for my medicine," Ethan sobbed. "I was coming from my appointment and someone bumped into me at the subway station. When I looked, my wallet was gone." Jennifer glanced at the prescription. It was an expensive medication, essential for his leukemia treatment. She knew without it, the boy couldn't continue chemotherapy properly. "Can't your mom come get another one?" she asked gently. Ethan shook his head, more tears welling up. "My mum and dad left 2 years ago on a medical mission to Africa. I live with my grandma, but she's away for work and won't be back until next week. I can't wait that long, doctor." Jennifer wasn't a doctor, just a nursing assistant, but she didn't correct him. She looked at her purse where she kept the money meant for her meals over the next 10 days. Her paycheck had already run out paying bills for her sick mother and the 3 younger siblings she supported alone. "How much is it?" she asked, already knowing she'd do it even if she couldn't afford it. $240. Ethan showed her the prescription with trembling hands. Jennifer took a deep breath. It was exactly what she had in her wallet. She'd have to skip meals until her next paycheck, but she couldn't bear the thought of this boy suffering without his medicine. "Come with me," she held out her hand. "Let's go to the pharmacy." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Ethan followed her silently to the hospital pharmacy. Jennifer paid for the medicine without hesitation, handing over her last savings. The boy hugged her tightly, whispering something strange she couldn't quite make out. "What did you say?" she asked, stroking his thin shoulders. "That my grandma is always right." Ethan smiled for the first time. "She said I'd find an angel when I needed one most." Jennifer's heart ached. How could this boy, sick and alone, still hold on to hope? She walked him to the exit, where a taxi was waiting. "Ethan, if you need anything, come find me. My name is Jennifer and I work in pediatric oncology." "Thank you, Aunt Jennifer. I'll never forget what you did for me." The taxi drove off, and Jennifer returned to the hospital with her stomach growling, knowing she'd have only water and hospital crackers for the next few days. But she felt at peace with her decision. 3 hours later, as she was organizing medications in the pharmacy, a deafening noise sent everyone rushing to the windows. 3 luxury helicopters landed in the hospital parking lot, causing a stir among patients and staff. "What on earth is happening?" murmured Dr. Wilson, the medical director, appearing beside Jennifer. From the first helicopter stepped an elegant woman in her 60s, wearing a flawless pantsuit and sunglasses. Her perfectly styled grey hair and upright posture radiated authority. 2 men in suits accompanied her, clearly bodyguards. The woman marched decisively toward the hospital reception. Jennifer could hear her even from the 2nd floor. "I want to speak to the nurse who helped my grandson Ethan today." Her voice echoed through the lobby. Immediately, "Doctor!" Ethan rushed down the stairs, worried about the commotion the situation might cause. Jennifer followed him, curious and a little apprehensive. "Ma'am, please, calm down," Dr. Wilson tried to mediate. "We can talk in my office." "I don't want to talk to you," the woman was firm. "I want to speak with the nurse who paid for my grandson's medicine with her own money." Jennifer felt all eyes turn toward her. Staff, patients and visitors stopped to watch the scene. She approached slowly, still not fully understanding what was happening. "I'm Jennifer Thompson," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I helped Ethan with the medicine today." The woman removed her sunglasses, revealing intense brown eyes that studied Jennifer from head to toe. For a moment that felt eternal, they stared at each other in silence. "My name is Margaret Wilson." The woman's voice softened slightly. "Ethan is my grandson. He called me and told me what you did." Jennifer nodded, still confused about why this was causing such a stir. It was just a human gesture, Mrs. Wilson. Anyone would have done the same. Margaret let out a bitter laugh. You're very mistaken, dear. Very few people would do what you did, especially without knowing who Ethan is or where he comes from. Dr. Wilson interrupted, visibly nervous. Mrs. Wilson, if we could talk in private. There's nothing to discuss in private, Margaret cut him off. I came here to offer Nurse Jennifer a reward, $1 million for her act of kindness. A tense silence filled the lobby. Jennifer felt her legs tremble. $1 million was more money than she had ever dreamed of having in her life. She could pay for her mother's treatments, give her siblings a quality education, and live a dignified life. But something inside her rejected the offer. I can't accept, she said, to everyone's surprise. I did it out of compassion, not for money. Margaret raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. Why not? Because if I accept, I'd be selling a gesture that came from the heart, and that's priceless. The businesswoman studied Jennifer with even more interest. In her 63 years of life, building a business empire from scratch, she had rarely met someone who refused money on principle. Interesting, Margaret murmured. Very interesting. She turned to the security guards. Robert, Michael, you can go back to the helicopters. I'll stay here a little longer. The men hesitated. Mrs. Wilson, we have commitments. The commitments can wait, she said firmly. Go. When they were alone, Margaret stepped closer to Jennifer. May I ask why you refused the money? Jennifer took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. My mother always taught me that we help people because it's the right thing to do, not because we expect something in return. If I accept your offer, every time I help someone from now on, I'll be expecting a reward, and then it won't be kindness anymore. It'll be business. Margaret nodded slowly, an expression Jennifer couldn't decipher crossing her face. Your mother is a wise woman. Is she well? The question caught Jennifer off guard. She felt her eyes well up. She's sick. She needs treatment I can't afford, but that doesn't change anything. I won't take the money. And why not? Because it would be taking advantage of Ethan's illness. He's a child who needs care, not an opportunity to make money. Margaret was silent for a long moment, observing the determination on Jennifer's face. Around them, hospital staff whispered among themselves, some clearly thinking the nurse was crazy for turning down so much money. Nurse Jennifer, Margaret finally spoke. May I ask you a personal question? Of course. How old are you? 32. Family? 3 younger siblings and my mother. My father left us when I was 17. And yet you refuse $1 million that would solve all your problems? Jennifer held Margaret's steady gaze. Mrs. Wilson, I understand this might be hard for you to grasp, but there's something more important than money. And what would that be? Dignity. If I take that money, how could I look in the mirror knowing I used a child's illness to get rich? Margaret smiled for the first time since arriving at the hospital, a genuine smile that softened her stern expression. You know something, Nurse Jennifer? It's been a long time since I've met someone like you. What do you mean? Someone who puts principles above money. In the business world, that's rare to find. Dr. Wilson approached again, visibly uncomfortable with the situation. Mrs. Wilson, perhaps we could... Dr. Wilson, Margaret interrupted him once more. Could you let us talk in peace? The director hesitated but eventually stepped away. Margaret turned back to Jennifer. Nurse, may I ask what your working conditions are like here? What do you mean? Salary, hours, the hospital's resources? Jennifer hesitated. She didn't want to sound like she was complaining, but she saw no reason to lie. I work 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. The salary is $2,500. The hospital has limited resources, but we do what we can. And is that enough to support your family? We make it work, Jennifer answered proudly. It's not easy, but we get by. Even after spending $240 on medicine for a stranger? Jennifer lowered her eyes. It was true. She'd face some tough days ahead, but she refused to show weakness. We make it work, she repeated less confidently this time. Margaret studied the young nurse with growing admiration. She saw herself decades ago, working in a small textile factory after her husband left her with baby Ethan. The same determination, the same dignity in hardship. Nurse Jennifer, may I make a different proposal? That depends. How about having dinner with me and Ethan tonight? No business, just a chance for me to get to know the person who helped my grandson. Jennifer checked her watch. Her shift had ended 2 hours ago, but she'd stayed to help her colleagues. At home, her siblings would be back from school, and her mother would need her daily medication. I need to get home, Mrs. Wilson. My family's waiting. Then what if Ethan and I come to your place? That way I can meet your family too. The suggestion left Jennifer speechless. On one hand, she was honored by the interest of this clearly important woman. On the other, she was ashamed of their modest living conditions. Mrs. Wilson, I live in a very humble place. Nurse Jennifer, Margaret gently interrupted. I wasn't born rich. I know what it's like to live with little. I'm not judging anyone. There was something in Margaret's voice that convinced Jennifer, a sincerity she hadn't expected from someone who arrived by helicopter. All right, but I'm warning you. It's really simple. Perfect. Ethan will be so happy to see you again. They left the hospital together, Margaret dismissing the helicopters and asking one of the drivers to take them to Jennifer's home in South Side. During the nearly 2-hour drive through Chicago traffic, the two women talked. How is Ethan handling the treatment? Jennifer asked. He's a brave boy, Margaret sighed. Braver than I'd be in his place. But I can tell he's sad. He misses his parents. Can't they come back? They're working in a remote area with no regular communication. They only get to speak to Ethan once a month. It's hard on him. Jennifer could hear the pain in Margaret's voice. Behind that business-like facade was a worried grandmother trying to fill the roles of both mother and father for a sick grandson. And how about you? How are you handling all of this? Margaret looked out the window, watching the urban landscape shift as they moved away from downtown. Honestly, I'm lost. I've always been good with business, but caring for a sick child is completely different. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing him. From what I saw today, Ethan loves you very much. He spoke about you with such warmth. Really? Margaret turned, eager for details. He said you're always right, and that you promised he'd find an angel when he needed one the most. Margaret smiled, her eyes glistening slightly. I did say that. When he was upset about losing the money, I told him sometimes people come into our lives exactly when we need them. I didn't know it would be so literal. They arrived at the housing complex where Jennifer lived. Margaret took in the simple buildings, the children playing in the courtyard, the clothes hanging from windows. There was no judgment in her eyes, only curiosity. This is it, Jennifer pointed to one of the buildings. 3rd floor. They climbed the stairs, and Jennifer opened the door to the 2-bedroom apartment. Immediately, 3 children ran to hug her. Jenny! The youngest, a 6-year-old girl with curly hair, shouted, You're late today. Sorry, Emily, I had some things to take care of. Jennifer kissed her sister and turned to the other 2. These are my siblings, Emily, who's 6, Tyler, 9, and Olivia, 12. The children stared at Margaret with curiosity, clearly impressed by her elegant clothes. Kids, this is Mrs. Wilson. She's the grandmother of a patient I met today. Hi, Mrs. Wilson, they chorused. Margaret smiled, a more genuine smile than she'd given in months. Hello, kids. It's lovely to meet you. Mom? Jennifer called. We have company. From the kitchen emerged a woman around 50, thin and frail-looking, but with lively eyes. She leaned on a cane and walked with difficulty. Mom, this is Mrs. Margaret Wilson. Margaret, my mother, Catherine Thompson. Catherine extended her hand, studying the visitor with curiosity. Welcome to our home, Mrs. Wilson. It's simple, but it's made with love. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Your daughter mentioned you haven't been well. Oh, just the usual aging problems, Catherine shrugged. Arthritis, heart issues, things like that. But as long as God allows, I'm still here. Margaret observed the family dynamic. Even ill, Catherine still tried to care for her younger children. Olivia, the 12-year-old, helped her mother in the kitchen. Tyler did his homework at the living room table. Emily played with dolls on the floor. Where's Ethan? Jennifer asked. On his way, Margaret smiled. I had them stop by his place first so he could change. He's probably coming up the stairs now. As if on cue, Ethan appeared at the door, no longer in his hospital gown, but wearing a simple t-shirt and shorts. His face lit up when he saw Jennifer. "Aunt Jenny." He ran to hug her. "Hi, Ethan, how are you feeling?" "Much better after taking the medicine, thanks again." Jennifer's siblings quickly took an interest in their new friend. Tyler, close in age, started showing Ethan his toys. The girls included him in their games. Margaret watched with emotion, seeing her grandson interact naturally with other children. "It's been a while since I've seen Ethan this happy," she murmured to Jennifer. "He seems like a special kid." "He's very mature for his age. Sometimes I forget he's just a child." Catherine prepared a simple snack, but made sure to serve everyone with care. Margaret helped set the table, much to Jennifer's surprise, who had expected a wealthy businesswoman to be more distant. During the snack, the children chatted animatedly. Ethan talked about his treatment, while the others discussed school. Margaret joined the conversation, asking genuine questions about their lives. "Aunt Jen works so hard," Olivia remarked. "Sometimes she comes home so tired she barely has dinner." "Olivia?" Jennifer tried to change the subject, embarrassed. "It's true," Tyler agreed. "Yesterday she came home and fell asleep in the kitchen chair." Margaret absorbed every detail, forming an increasingly clear picture of Jennifer's life, a 32-year-old woman sacrificing herself to support her family. "What about you?" Margaret asked the children. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" "I want to be a doctor," Olivia declared, "to take care of Mom and help others like Jen does." "I want to be a soccer player," said Tyler. "Or an engineer. I'm not sure yet." "I want to be a princess," Emily laughed, making everyone chuckle. "I want to be like Aunt Jen," Ethan said softly. "Someone who helps people." The comment brought a moment of emotional silence. Jennifer felt her eyes well up, and Margaret had to hide her own emotion. Catherine, who had been watching everything, decided to lighten the mood. "Mrs. Wilson, do you have any family besides Ethan?" "I have 2 children, Ethan's parents, but they're working in Africa on a medical mission. It's just Ethan and me for now." "It must be hard raising a child alone," Catherine said with empathy. "It is," Margaret admitted. "I've always been more focused on work. Learning to be a full-time grandmother has been challenging." "Love is learned by doing," Catherine smiled. "When my husband left, I didn't know how I'd raise 4 children alone, but the heart teaches you." Margaret looked at Catherine with renewed respect. This simple, sick, and poor woman had raised 4 children alone and still radiated wisdom and kindness. The hours flew by. When night fell, Margaret realized they had to leave. "Ethan, we need to go. You have an appointment early tomorrow." "Already, Grandma?" The boy pouted. "You can come here anytime you want," Jennifer offered. "Really?" Ethan perked up. "Of course. You're part of our family now." Ethan hugged Jennifer tightly, whispering, "Thank you for saving me today." "You didn't need saving, Ethan. You just needed a friend." On the way back, Ethan fell asleep in the back seat. Margaret and Jennifer spoke quietly. "Your family is beautiful," Margaret commented. "Thank you, they're everything to me." "Can I ask you a personal question?" "Sure." "Why didn't you finish your studies? You're clearly intelligent." Jennifer sighed, an old wound touched. "When my father left, I was in my 2nd year of nursing school. My mother developed heart problems from the stress, and someone had to work to support everyone. I dropped out and took a technical course instead. It was faster." "And you never thought about going back?" "I think about it every day, but between working 12-hour shifts, taking care of my mom and siblings, there's no time or money left." "But was it your dream?" "It was. Now my dream is to see my siblings graduate and my mother healed." Margaret stayed silent for a few minutes, processing everything she had heard and observed that day. "Jennifer, can I make you an offer?" "I already said I won't take the money." "It's not about money, it's about an opportunity." Jennifer turned curious. "What kind of opportunity?" "I'm thinking of investing in community health projects, hospitals, clinics, prevention programs. I need someone who understands both the technical side and the real needs of people." And you seem to be exactly the kind of person I'm looking for. someone with hands-on experience, a big heart and solid principles. Jennifer laughed nervously. Mrs. Wilson, I haven't even finished college. I'm not qualified to work with you. Qualifications can be earned, character can't. And you have something no university can teach, the ability to put people first. But I don't know anything about business. I know about business. You know about people. Together we could do something important. Jennifer fell silent, processing the offer. It was an incredible opportunity, but also intimidating. Can I think about it? Of course. But I want you to know my offer is serious. And if you accept, I'll make sure you finish your nursing degree too. Why? Jennifer asked bluntly. Why are you doing this? Margaret glanced at her grandson sleeping in the back seat before answering. Because today, for the first time in years, I saw Ethan truly happy. And because I found someone who reminded me why I started my business 40 years ago. What do you mean? When I began, I wanted to change the world. I wanted to create jobs, help families, make a difference. Over time, I became so focused on profit that I forgot the purpose. You reminded me of it. They arrived at the building where Margaret lived, a luxurious high-rise in the Upper East Side. The contrast with Jennifer's housing project was stark. Would you like to come up? Margaret offered. No, thank you. I need to get home. Then how about Ethan and I visit you tomorrow afternoon, if that's all right? You'd both be very welcome. Margaret took Jennifer's hands in hers. Thank you for today. It's been a long time since I've felt so human. Thank you for giving me the chance to get to know you better. On the way home, Jennifer reflected on everything that had happened. In less than 24 hours, her life had completely changed. Not just because of Margaret's offer, but because of the feeling that she'd found something she didn't even know she was looking for, a genuine connection with others. When she got home, the kids were already asleep. Catherine was waiting in the kitchen, sipping tea. So, her mother asked, what did you think of this Mrs. Wilson? She's different than I expected. More human. I could see that. She has sad eyes, like someone carrying a heavy weight. Jennifer nodded. That was exactly what she'd noticed. Mum, she offered me a job. What kind of job? Jennifer explained the proposal. Catherine listened quietly, asking pointed questions. So what do you think? She asked when Jennifer finished. I'm scared. It's an amazing opportunity, but what if I can't handle it? What if it's just pity for our situation? Sweetheart, do you really think a woman who built a business empire would make decisions out of pity? Maybe not. Besides, you work 12-hour days at a job that doesn't fulfill you. Maybe it's time to take a chance. But what about you all? What if it doesn't work out? Jennifer, Catherine took her daughter's hand. You've already sacrificed 15 years of your life for us. It's time to think about yourself too. I don't see it as a sacrifice, Mom. I know, my love. But I do. And it hurts to see you giving up your dreams to take care of us. Jennifer felt her eyes well up. Her mother rarely spoke so openly about the sacrifices she'd made. I chose to take care of you. And it was the right choice. But now there's a chance to care for us and still follow your dreams. Don't let fear stop you. That night, Jennifer struggled to sleep. Her mind wouldn't stop racing through all the possibilities. For the first time in years, she felt like there could be more to life than just survival. The next day, she arrived at work with her head still full of doubts. Her co-workers bombarded her with questions about Margaret's visit. Jennifer, you must be crazy not to have taken that money, said Deborah, an older nursing assistant. It was $1 million, added Susan from the pharmacy. $1 million? I did what I thought was right, Jennifer replied, tired of justifying herself. Right for whom? Deborah insisted. Your sick mother wouldn't have complained about having money for treatment. The words stung, but Jennifer held her ground. She knew some of her co-workers didn't understand her motivations, but that didn't make her question her decision. During lunch, she was in the hospital courtyard when she saw Ethan arriving with Margaret for his appointment. The boy waved excitedly when he spotted her. Aunt Jen! He ran to hug her. Hi, Ethan. How are you today? Great, I slept really well and the medicine is working. The doctor said my tests look better. Margaret approached, more casual than the day before. She wore jeans and a simple blouse but still carried her natural elegance. Good afternoon, Jennifer. How was your night? Quiet. And yours? Better than I expected. Ethan hasn't stopped talking about you all. It's true, Ethan chimed in. I told Grandma about Tyler's toys and Emily's dolls and how smart Olivia is. And about how Aunt Jen takes care of everyone, Margaret added, looking straight at Jennifer. Ethan's appointment lasted an hour. While waiting for the test results, Margaret and Jennifer talked in the hallway. Have you thought about my offer? Margaret asked. I'm thinking. It's a huge change. I understand. But can I tell you something? When I was your age, someone offered me an opportunity that changed my life. I almost turned it down out of fear. What made you accept? My son, Ethan's father. He was a baby at the time, and I realized if I kept working at the factory, I'd never be able to give him the opportunities I never had. And did it work out? It did, but the most important part wasn't the financial success. It was discovering I was capable of so much more than I imagined. Jennifer absorbed the words, feeling a connection to Margaret's story. Can I ask you a personal question? Of course. How do you balance work and family? Don't you feel guilty for dedicating so much to your business? Margaret sighed deeply. I do, a lot. Especially now, taking care of Ethan. I realize how much of my children's childhood I missed because I was always working. And do you regret it? Some things, yes. But I've learned regret only matters if it teaches you something. And what I've learned is that success without purpose is empty. And what's your purpose now? Making sure Ethan has not just resources, but love and presence, and maybe using everything I've built to do something that truly matters. The conversation was interrupted when the doctor called Ethan. The tests were good, and the treatment was going as planned. Margaret looked visibly relieved. Aunt Jen, Ethan said, approaching, Grandma said we're visiting you today. Can I? Of course you can, but only if you behave during your appointment. I promise. When they left the hospital, Margaret made an unexpected offer. How about we stop by the supermarket before going to your place? I'd like to contribute to dinner. You don't have to, Mrs. Wilson. Please let me do this, not as payment or charity, but as a friend's contribution. The word friend sounded strange, but in a good way. Jennifer nodded. At the supermarket, Margaret pushed the cart while Ethan and Jennifer picked out items. It felt surreal to Jennifer, one of the richest women in the country shopping normally, joking with Ethan, asking her opinion about brands. Do you always do this? Jennifer asked curiously. Do what? Go to the supermarket. Margaret laughed. No, usually I have people do it for me, but it's refreshing. It's been decades since I've picked products off a shelf myself. And it doesn't bother you? Bother me how? With people looking, recognizing. Margaret looked around and noticed that there were indeed people whispering and discreetly pointing. You know what? I don't even care. For the first time in years, I'm doing something normal, with people I like. Ethan, who was listening to the conversation, clung to his grandmother's arm. Grandma, you've been different since yesterday. Different how? Happier, like you were before I got sick. Margaret stopped pushing the cart, moved by her grandson's observation. Maybe I am, Ethan. Maybe I am. They arrived at Jennifer's house loaded with bags. The kids welcomed Ethan as if he were a long-awaited brother. Olivia helped him with his homework, Tyler showed off his card collection, and Emily insisted on playing house. Margaret helped Catherine in the kitchen, a scene that seemed impossible but happened naturally. Mrs. Wilson, Catherine said as they peeled potatoes, can I give you some advice? Of course. Don't push too hard with Jennifer. She's wary when someone offers something that seems too good to be true. Why? Because she's been let down before. Her father promised the world and disappeared. A boyfriend promised marriage and vanished when he found out she had a family to support. She learned to rely only on herself. Margaret nodded, understanding Jennifer's resistance better. But she deserves a chance. She does. And deep down, she knows it. She just needs time to believe it's real. How much time? Catherine smiled. Enough to realize you're not like the other people who've passed through her life. During dinner, conversations flowed naturally. Margaret shared stories from her early jobs, making everyone laugh at her mishaps. Ethan talked about his plans once he was cured. The kids shared their dreams and mischief. "Aunt Jen," Ethan suddenly said, "why did you help a stranger like me?" The question took everyone by surprise. Jennifer thought for a moment before answering. "Because you weren't a stranger, Ethan. You were a child who needed help, and kids have always been my weakness. But you didn't even know me. You don't need to know someone to do good. Sometimes it's enough to recognize that we're all just humans, trying to live the best we can." Margaret watched the conversation with growing admiration. Jennifer had a natural wisdom for dealing with people, especially children. "What if it was an adult?" Ethan continued, curious. "Would you have helped them too?" "I think so. But with kids, it's different. You depend on adults for almost everything. If we don't take care of you, who will?" "Grandma takes care of me." Ethan looked at Margaret affectionately. "And she does it really well." Jennifer smiled. "You're lucky to have a grandma who loves you so much." Margaret felt her heart warm at the comment. For weeks, she'd questioned whether she was doing right by Ethan. Hearing that from someone like Jennifer meant a lot. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. After dinner, the kids went to play in the living room while the adults talked in the kitchen. Margaret took the opportunity to bring up the subject that intrigued her. "Jennifer, can I ask about your plans for the future?" "What do you mean? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" Jennifer laughed nervously. "Honestly? I've never thought that far ahead. I've always focused on surviving the next day. But if you could dream without limits, I'd finish my degree. Maybe open a practice or work at a clinic where I could really help people, not just follow protocols. And your family. I'd want to see my siblings graduated independent. My mom healed or at least stable. And maybe..." She hesitated. "Maybe what? Maybe find someone to share life with. Not just the responsibilities, but the good moments too." Margaret nodded, understanding Jennifer's desire for a more fulfilling life. "And what's stopping you from going after that?" "Time, money, opportunity, the basic things that stop most people." "What if I told you I could help with that?" Jennifer sighed. "Mrs. Wilson, I appreciate your generosity, but I can't accept charity. It's not charity, it's an investment. An investment in what? In your potential, in what you could become, and the good you could do. But what if I disappoint you? What if you don't?" The question hung in the air, creating a moment of reflection. Margaret continued, "Jennifer, may I tell you how my life changed?" "Of course." "When I was 22, I worked in a clothing factory. I earned little, was a single mother, and had no prospects. One day, the factory owner called me in to talk. And? She'd noticed I always suggested improvements in the processes, took care of my co-workers, had ideas. She offered me a partnership in a small clothing business she was starting. Did you accept? I almost didn't. I thought it was crazy. A poor woman with no formal education becoming a business partner? What made you change your mind? She told me something I've never forgotten. Margaret, you can stay safe and poor or take a risk and maybe become something greater. Did it work out? Better than I imagined. In 5 years, we bought the original factory. In 10, we had a chain of stores. In 20, we expanded to other countries. And the woman who helped you? She became my best friend and partner for decades. She passed away 3 years ago, but she left me with a lesson. Sometimes we have to bet on people, not on papers or guarantees. Jennifer absorbed the story, seeing parallels with her own situation. "Mrs. Wilson, can I be honest?" "Please. I'm afraid I'm being naive, that I'm believing in something too good to be true. That's understandable. But may I ask you something? Is there anything in your current life that truly satisfies you?" Jennifer thought. my family, helping patients. But professionally, no. I feel I could be more, do more. Then maybe it's worth the risk. The conversation was interrupted when Ethan came running into the kitchen. Grandma, Tyler taught me a game on his phone. Can I download it on mine? What game is it? Margaret asked cautiously. It's educational, Jennifer reassured her. It teaches math in a fun way. Then you may, Margaret smiled. Ethan ran back to the living room, and Margaret took the moment to comment, "It's amazing how open Ethan has become with your family. Usually he's more reserved." Sick children sometimes close themselves off to protect themselves, Jennifer explained. But when they feel safe, they become children again. You understand children so well. I have 3 siblings and have worked in pediatrics for 12 years. I've learned a thing or two. Have you ever thought of specializing in pediatrics? It's always been my dream. But specializations are expensive and require time I don't have. Margaret made a mental note, another piece of Jennifer's life puzzle. The rest of the evening passed quickly. When it was time to leave, Ethan was visibly sad. "Can I come back tomorrow?" he asked hopefully. "Ethan, you have school tomorrow," Margaret reminded him. "But after school?" Jennifer looked at Margaret, who nodded. "You may, but only after homework. I promise." On the way home, Ethan fell asleep again. Margaret and Jennifer talked about the day. "Your family is truly special," Margaret remarked. "Thank you. They really liked you too." "May I make an observation?" "Of course. You have a natural talent for creating spaces where people feel comfortable. That's rare. I don't know if it's talent. I think it's just care." "Exactly. And that's not something they teach in any college." They stopped in front of Margaret's building. This time, Jennifer agreed to go up and see where Ethan lived. The apartment was luxurious yet cozy. Ethan had a room full of toys, books, and games. Photos of his parents were scattered around the house. "Does Ethan miss them?" Jennifer asked, looking at a picture of the boy's parents. "Very much. We video call once a week, but it's not the same." "And when are they coming back?" "In 6 months, if everything goes well with the mission. It's an organization that brings medical care to remote regions in Africa." It must be hard for him to understand why his parents chose to leave just when he was sick. Margaret looked at Jennifer, surprised. "How did you know he feels that way?" "It's natural. Sick children tend to blame themselves, to think they somehow caused their parents' absence." "Oh my God, I never thought of that. What should I do?" "Talk to him. Explain that his parents leaving has nothing to do with his illness, that they left because they're people who help others, just like he's learning to be." Margaret felt a lump in her throat. How had she not seen what seemed so obvious when Jennifer explained it? "You really should work with children professionally," she said. "Maybe someday." "No, Jennifer. Not maybe someday. Now. The world needs people like you caring for our children." The intensity in Margaret's voice surprised Jennifer. "Mrs. Wilson, listen to me. I'm going to make you a concrete offer. I want you to think seriously about it." "I'm listening." "I have the resources to set up a children's medical center, not just a regular hospital, but a place where kids receive not only medical treatment, but emotional, educational, and family care. That would be amazing, but I need someone to lead the human side of the project, someone who understands both the technical and emotional aspects. But I don't have the qualifications. You have something better, real experience and a heart for the work. The rest, we'll build together." Jennifer felt her pulse quicken. This was exactly the kind of project she had always dreamed of working on. "How long do I have to decide?" "As long as you need. But I want you to know this isn't an impulsive offer. I've watched you for 2 days, and I'm certain you're the right person." "What about my family?" "They'd be part of the project. Your mother could coordinate support groups for families. Your brothers would have guaranteed scholarships. You could finish your education while working." It was everything Jennifer could have wished for, yet it still seemed too good to be true. "Why me?" she asked directly. "Because in 40 years of business, I've rarely seen someone make decisions based purely on principle, like you did yesterday. And because Ethan hasn't stopped talking about you since you met." As if on cue, Ethan appeared in the living room in his pajamas. "Aunt Jen, are you going to work with Grandma?" We're still talking about it, Ethan. I think you should say yes, he said seriously. Then you could help other kids like me. Ethan, Margaret began. It's true, Grandma. Aunt Jen knows how to make people feel better. Yesterday, when I was sad, she made me laugh just by talking. Jennifer was moved by the boy's sincerity. Ethan, you're very special. You are too. That's why I think you should help other kids. The simplicity of a child's logic was more convincing than any previous argument. Jennifer looked at Margaret, who waited anxiously for her answer. Can I give you my answer by the end of the week? Of course, but I want you to know I believe in you deeply. Why? Because yesterday you reminded me of something I'd forgotten, that doing good shouldn't have a price. And today you're teaching me that caring for people is an art that goes far beyond medical techniques. On the way home, Jennifer couldn't stop thinking about it. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, but also the hardest decision she'd ever had to make. Arriving home, she found Catherine still awake, reading an old book in the living room. How did it go? Her mother asked. Jennifer told her about Margaret's proposal. Catherine listened in silence. And what is your heart telling you? She asked when Jennifer finished. That it's an incredible opportunity, but my head is full of fears. What kind of fears? What if I'm not good enough? What if it's just a whim of hers? What if it goes wrong and I lose the job I have? Catherine smiled. My dear, you're already losing the life you have. You work a job that doesn't fulfill you, earn little, and have no growth prospects. What exactly is the risk in trying something different? But what about you all? Jennifer, look at me. Jennifer met her mother's tired but determined eyes. You're 32. You've already sacrificed 15 years taking care of us. I won't let you sacrifice the next 15 out of fear. But, no buts. That woman saw in you what I've always known was there. Immense potential being wasted for lack of opportunity. What if it goes wrong? What if it goes right? What if you become the person you've always dreamed of being? What if you can help hundreds of children like Ethan? Jennifer felt her eyes well up. I'm so scared, Mum. I know, dear, but sometimes fear is just a sign we're about to do something important. That night, Jennifer lay awake for hours, thinking. By morning, she'd made up her mind. At the hospital, she sought out Dr. Wilson to talk. He was surprised when she explained the situation. Jennifer, are you sure? Margaret Wilson is a powerful woman, but also very demanding. How do you know her? Our family owns a private hospital. We've done business with her group before. She's serious, competent, but expects a lot from her employees. Do you think I should accept? Dr. Wilson studied her carefully. Honestly, I think it would be a terrible loss for us, but a tremendous gain for you and for the children you'd care for. Even if I don't have enough qualifications. Jennifer, you have something no resume can show, the ability to make every patient feel special. That's worth more than 10 diplomas. The medical director's validation meant a lot to Jennifer. If someone who knew her professionally believed in her potential, maybe Margaret wasn't just being kind. During lunch, she called Margaret. Hello? Mrs. Wilson? It's Jennifer. Jennifer, how are you? Good. I wanted to talk to you about the proposal. Of course. Would you like to meet? Yes, but first, can I ask some practical questions? Go ahead. When would I start? That would depend on you. We could arrange a gradual transition. What about my education? How would that work? I'd pay for a private college so you could finish nursing quickly. At the same time, you'd take courses in hospital management and administration. And the salary? 5 times what you earn now to start. As the project develops, your share would increase. Jennifer nearly dropped the phone. 5 times her current salary would not only support her family comfortably, but give them opportunities she'd never imagined. Mrs. Wilson, can I give you my answer this afternoon? Of course. Would you like Ethan and me to stop by? That would be great. That afternoon, when Margaret and Ethan arrived, Jennifer had already made her decision. But first, she needed to clarify something. Mrs. Wilson, I need to be sure of one thing. Go on. Does this offer have anything to do with pity for my financial situation? Margaret looked directly into Jennifer's eyes. Jennifer, I built a $2 billion company. I didn't get where I am by making decisions out of pity. Then why me? Because in 40 years of business, I've learned to recognize rare talents. And you have a talent that can't be bought, the ability to make people feel important and cared for. How can you be so sure after just 2 days of observing? Because I saw how Ethan reacted to you. I saw how your family operates. I saw how your co-workers respect you. And I saw how you make decisions based on values, not convenience. Ethan, who had been playing with Olivia, came over to them. "Aunt Jen decided?" he asked eagerly. "Ethan, leave Aunt Jennifer alone." Margaret tried to rein in her grandson. "It's all right," Jennifer smiled. "Ethan, if I agree to work with your grandmother, would you help me take care of other sick kids? Of course, I know what it's like to be sick and scared. I can teach them that everything will be okay." The boy's answer touched Jennifer deeply. He wanted to turn his own difficult experience into something useful for others. "Then I accept," she said, looking at Margaret. "Really?" Margaret could barely contain her joy. "Really, but with a few conditions. What are they?" "I want to start slow, learning hands-on. I don't want any special treatment just because I'm your friend. And if at any point you think I'm not up to it, tell me directly." Margaret extended her hand. "We have a deal," Ethan shouted with excitement and ran off to tell the other kids. Catherine, who had been listening from the kitchen, came to hug her daughter. "I'm proud of you," she whispered in Jennifer's ear. "I hope I don't let anyone down." "You won't," Margaret said with certainty, "because people like you don't know how to." The days that followed were a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Jennifer wrapped up her responsibilities at Mercy General Hospital, where her colleagues threw her a farewell party. Even those who had criticized her initial refusal of the money now acknowledged she deserved the opportunity. Dr. Wilson gave an emotional speech. "Jennifer, in 12 years of working with us, you were never just another employee. You were the heart of this hospital. You'll be deeply missed, but we know you're moving on to something greater." Her first day at the new job was intimidating. Margaret took her to see the land where the Children's Medical Center would be built, a 5,000 square meter lot in Lincoln Park, overlooking a park. "This will be the main building," Margaret explained, pointing to the architectural plans. "Examinations, hospital stays, surgeries. Over there will be the community center with a library, playroom, and game area." "And this here?" Jennifer pointed to another structure in the drawings. "Family area, lodging for parents traveling from afar, a communal kitchen, psychological support rooms." Jennifer was awed by the scale of the project. "How much will all this cost?" "Around $20 million for construction and equipment, another $10 million for the first 5 years of operation." "And you're investing all of that?" "Me and a few partners. But the money isn't what matters, it's the outcome." "What outcome?" "A place where sick children are treated like children, not numbers. Where families get support, not just bills. Where healing involves body, mind, and heart." A shiver of emotion ran through Jennifer. This was exactly the kind of place she had always dreamed of working. "Where do we start?" "By visiting exemplary children's hospitals. We'll travel, study, learn what works and what doesn't." Over the next 2 months, Jennifer visited hospitals in Chicago, Los Angeles, Atlanta, and even 2 overseas. Each visit was a lesson, both in medicine and hospital management. At a hospital in Boston, she discovered a program where hospitalized children helped newcomers adjust. Ethan was fascinated when she told him. "Can I do that too when our hospital is ready?" he asked. "Of course you can. You're going to be our first junior volunteer." The project took shape and gained details over time. Jennifer suggested changes based on her practical experience. Margaret contributed management and resource expertise. Ethan gave input from a child's perspective. 6 months after accepting the proposal, Jennifer was unrecognizable. She had completed 2 hospital management courses, was in her final semester of nursing, and was leading a team of 15 people in planning the medical center. "You've changed," Catherine remarked one day. "How so?" "You're more confident, more fulfilled." It was true. For the first time in her life, Jennifer felt she was using her full potential, not just surviving, but building something important. The medical center opened a year later in an emotional ceremony. Ethan, who had successfully completed his treatment, cut the ribbon alongside Jennifer and Margaret. "This place will help so many kids like me," Ethan told the reporters present. "And what do you like most about it?" one journalist asked. "That the doctors and nurses make us feel special, not just sick." The answer perfectly captured the center's philosophy. In its first 6 months, they had already treated over 2,000 children. Families traveled from all over the country to receive care there. Jennifer was named Director of Integrated Care, a position created especially for her. Her responsibility was ensuring each child received not just medical treatment, but emotional and family support. "How do you feel?" Margaret asked during a quiet moment. "Complete," Jennifer answered without hesitation. "For the first time in my life, I wake up excited to work." "And do you regret refusing the money at first?" "Never, because if I'd taken it, I would have lost something far more valuable." "What?" "The chance to discover who I really am." Margaret smiled, proud of the decision she'd made that day. "And me? What did I gain by meeting you?" "What did you gain?" "A family. Ethan has a second mother in you." "Second, I have a daughter and daughter-in-law in you and your mother. And I've learned work can have purpose again." It was true. The 2 years that followed were the happiest of both their lives. Ethan grew up healthy and even wiser, helping other kids at the hospital. Jennifer's brothers excelled in their studies with the scholarships they received. Catherine, with proper treatment, regained much of her vitality. And Jennifer discovered that sometimes the greatest gifts come disguised as small acts of kindness. The end. What about you? What did you think of this touching story? Comment below if you'd do the same as Jennifer, turning down $1 million to stand by your principles. Subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.